The dim, fluorescent lights of Lincoln High School buzzed like distant thunder, casting long shadows across the tiled hallway. It was well past midnight, the kind of hour when the world outside felt abandoned, and inside, only the echoes of a forgotten mop bucket rolling on wheels broke the silence. Ethan Hargrove, the night janitor, moved like a ghost through the corridors. His worn leather jacket, relic from a life long buried, hanging loose over his broad shoulders. At 52, Ethan was a man etched by time. Salt and pepper beard, framing a face scarred from a decade of riding with the Iron Vipers, a motorcycle club he'd left behind after a promise to his dying brother. That promise, to walk away from the roar of engines and the brotherhood's code, to build something quiet, something safe. But promises, like old wounds, had a way of reopening. He paused near the gymnasium doors, wiping sweat from his brow, when a small voice pierced the quiet. A boy's plea, raw and trembling. "Please, mister, don't make me go home. He'll hurt me again." Ethan froze, his calloused hand tightening on the mop handle. Peering through the cracked door, he saw him, a skinny kid, no older than 12, huddled on the bleachers. Noah, the name came to Ethan unbidden. He'd seen the boy in the lunch line, always with bruises blooming like dark flowers under his sleeves, eyes darting like a cornered animal. The child clutched a backpack like a shield, tears carving tracks through the grime on his cheeks. The air smelled of polished wood and faint sweat, the gymnasium a cavern of empty echoes. Ethan's heart clenched, a familiar ache surfacing. Memories flooded back. His own childhood in a rundown trailer on the edge of Dustville, fists from a father who drowned sorrows in cheap whiskey. He'd escaped on a stolen bike at 16, finding solace in the rumble of Harleys and the unyielding loyalty of the Vipers. But that life had cost him. His brother, gunned down in a turf skirmish, whispering on his deathbed, "Swear you'll leave it, Ethan. For me, build something real." He'd kept that vow, trading leathers for coveralls, the open road for these sterile halls. Yet here was Noah, a mirror of that broken boy Ethan once was, begging for the one thing he'd clawed his way toward, safety. Stepping inside, Ethan's boots echoed softly, deliberate. The boy startled, scrambling back, eyes wide with terror. "Hey, easy there," Ethan said, his voice gravelly but gentle, like the low hum of an idling engine. He lowered himself onto the bleachers a respectful distance away, not crowding the space. "Name's Ethan. I clean up around here at night. What's got you hiding out like this, son?" Noah wiped his nose on his sleeve, glancing toward the doors as if expecting shadows to lunge. "My stepdad, he gets mad, says I'm worthless. Tonight, after Mom left for work, he—" The words trailed off, the boy's small frame shaking. Ethan nodded, not pressing. His own scars itching under his shirt, a jagged line from a bar fight, another from shrapnel in Nam, though he'd never served. No, his wars were personal, fought in back alleys and desert highways. "I can't go back," Noah whispered. "The teachers don't believe me. Cops say it's family business, but it's not. It's hell." Ethan's jaw tightened, the weight of unspoken rage settling in his chest. He'd seen the signs before, in the Vipers' runs for charity, pulling kids from the fringes, or in the quiet nights when brothers shared stories around campfires, flames dancing on weathered faces. Corruption festered in places like this, social workers buried in paperwork, cops turning blind eyes for favors. But Ethan had walked away from that fight, hadn't he? The promise to his brother echoed, a chain around his soul. Yet, as Noah's sobs filled the air, thick with the scent of rain seeping through cracked windows, something shifted. This wasn't just a kid, it was a call pulling at the threads of who he'd been. He pulled out his old flip phone, the one relic he kept from the club days. Its screen cracked like his resolve. Thumbs hovering, he dialed a number he hadn't touched in 15 years. The line rang once, twice, then a gruff voice answered, "Hargrove? That you, old man?" Thought you were done with us." It was Marcus, the Viper's sergeant-at-arms, voice like rusted gravel. Ethan swallowed hard. "Got a situation, brother. A boy in trouble. Real trouble. I need the crew. All of them." There was a pause, the kind that stretched like highway miles. "You broke your promise once, swore off the life." Marcus's tone held no judgment, only the quiet understanding of men bound by blood and ink. "But if it's you asking, we're there. Dawn's Ride, 65 strong, rolling from the compound. Hell's Angels patched in from the border. Old allies, remember? For the kid." Ethan hung up, the phone heavy in his hand. He turned to Noah, who watched with wide, hopeful eyes. "You're not going anywhere you don't want to, son. Help's coming. Real help." The boy nodded, a flicker of trust breaking through the fear. Outside, the first hints of dawn painted the sky in bruised purples, the distant howl of wind promising storms or salvation. As the gymnasium lights hummed on, Ethan sat vigil, the weight of old oaths mingling with new ones. The road ahead wasn't just asphalt, it was redemption, carved from loyalty that time couldn't erase. And in that moment, with a child's plea hanging between them, Ethan knew some promises were worth breaking to keep the ones that mattered. The air grew heavier with anticipation, the faint rumble of approaching thunder. Or was it engines, vibrating through the walls? Noah leaned closer, whispering, "You promise?" Ethan met his gaze, the scars on his soul feeling a little less raw. "Yeah, kid, I promise." But dawn brought more than light. As the first rays pierced the windows, casting golden halos on the bleachers, Ethan heard it, the thunderous growl of motorcycles. A convoy swelling like a river from the horizon. 65 riders, leathers gleaming, patches from the Iron Vipers and Hell's Angels intertwined. A brotherhood reborn for one boy's sake. They pulled up in the school lot, engines cutting off in unison. A silence that roared louder than any fight. Marcus dismounted first, his massive frame silhouetted against the rising sun, nodding to Ethan as brothers reunited. "Told you we'd ride." The janitor stood, Noah at his side, the boy's hand slipping into his. This wasn't just intervention, it was a vow etched in chrome and dust, a family chosen in the face of darkness. And as the riders formed a protective circle, the world shifted, justice not by fists, but by the unbreakable code of those who'd lost everything and found honor in the ride. Yet shadows lingered, whispers of the stepfather's connections, a web of small-town corruption that reached into the precinct and beyond. Ethan felt the pull of his past, the Viper's oath clashing with his brother's dying words. But for Noah, he'd face it all, the ride just beginning, promising redemption in every mile. The sun climbed higher, turning the school parking lot into a sea of chrome and shadow, where 65 motorcycles stood like silent sentinels. Ethan stood at the center, Noah's small hand still gripped in his, the boy's eyes wide as he took in the sea of leather-clad figures, dismounting with purposeful grace. The air thrummed with the fading echo of engines, now replaced by the low murmur of voices, gruff greetings, the creak of boots on gravel, the faint scent of exhaust mingling with morning dew. Marcus approached, his broad shoulders cutting through the group like a ship's prow, a faded viper patch on his vest catching the light. At his side walked Lena, a no-nonsense nurse from the club's outreach runs, her ponytail swinging as she knelt to Noah's level, offering a gentle smile that cut through the tension like a warm breeze. "You're safe now, little one," Lena said, her voice steady, pulling a blanket from her saddlebag to wrap around the boy's shoulders. Noah nodded, clutching it close, the fabric soft against his skin, a barrier against the chill that went deeper than the autumn air. Ethan watched, a knot loosening in his chest. These weren't just riders, they were the remnants of his chosen family, men and women who'd patched wounds in desert motels and stood guard over lost causes. But as the group tightened their circle, whispers rippled through the ranks. Names dropped like warnings. Harlan Tate, the stepfather, a local enforcer with ties to the sheriff's office, his influence woven into the town's underbelly like rusted barbed wire. Ethan pulled Marcus aside, the two men stepping toward the edge of the lot where overgrown weeds brushed their knees. The rising sun painted their faces in warm hues, but Ethan's expression remained shadowed. "Harlan's not just some drunk," he murmured, voice low, the words tasting like dust on his tongue. "Kid's mom works doubles at the diner, leaves Noah alone with him. Signs of trouble, marks on the arms, flinching at loud noises. Cops dismissed it last time, called it roughhousing. But I know the look, brother. It's the same hell I crawled out of." Marcus rubbed his stubbled chin, eyes scanning the horizon where the town's silhouette loomed, a cluster of faded storefronts and flickering neon. "You broke your promise to ride again, Ethan, for this." There was no accusation, only the weight of shared history, the nights they'd spent under starlit skies, engines cooling as they traded stories of brothers lost to the road. Marcus had been there when Ethan's sibling drew his last breath in a dusty hospital room, the monitors beeping like accusatory heartbeats. The Vipers remember, Hells Angels too, old pact from the border runs. But this ain't a turf war, it's personal. Harlan's got pull. Word is the precinct's turning a blind eye for campaign donations. We ride in loud, we risk the whole crew. Ethan's gaze drifted back to Noah, now surrounded by a few riders who knelt to his height, sharing quiet jokes that elicited the boy's first tentative smile. One, a veteran named Tyler, with a prosthetic leg from a long-ago accident, pulled a candy bar from his pocket, unwrapping it with exaggerated care. The simple act stirred something in Ethan, a reminder of the club's code, not of vengeance, but of protection. The kind that built walls against the world's cruelty. "I walked away to honor Jake," Ethan said, invoking his brother's name like a talisman. "But this is honoring what he taught me. Loyalty over silence. If we don't step up, who will? Not the suits in City Hall, buried in their ledgers." The decision hung between them, thick as the fog rolling in from the nearby river. Marcus nodded slowly, clapping a hand on Ethan's shoulder, the gesture solid as an oath. "Then we do it clean. Escort the kid to a safe house, Lena's clinic in the next county. Rally the allies, make noise without fists, show this town what real justice looks like." As they turned back, the group parted to let them through, a ripple of solidarity passing like a wave. Noah looked up at Ethan, the blanket draped like a cape. "They're like guardians?" the boy asked, voice small but laced with wonder. "Something like that," Ethan replied, ruffling the kid's hair gently. The riders mounted up in pairs, engines coughing to life in a staggered roar that shook the ground, dust swirling in golden spirals. But before they could roll out, headlights pierced the lot from the main road. A patrol car, slow and deliberate, its blue lights off, but presence unmistakable. The sheriff himself, Deputy Rollins, stepped out, his uniform crisp against the morning light, a smirk playing on his lips as he eyed the convoy. "Morning, folks. Got reports of a disturbance. School grounds ain't no place for a biker rally." Tension crackled like static, hands hovering near handlebars, but Marcus raised a palm, signaling calm. Ethan stepped forward, Noah tucked behind him, the boys' breathing quickening. "No disturbance, Deputy. Just friends helping a friend. Boy here's scared to go home. You know why." Rollins's eyes narrowed, flicking to Noah, then back to Ethan. Recognition dawning, the janitor with a past, whispers of old club ties. "Family matters, Hargrove. Stay out of it, or you'll drag this whole circus down with you." The words landed like a gauntlet, stirring murmurs from the riders. Ethan felt the pull of his old life, the urge to rev and ride, but he held steady, voice even. "This ain't about circus. It's about keeping a promise. To a kid who deserves better than your family matters excuse." Rollins paused, the air heavy with unspoken threats, the scent of authorities' cologne clashing with leather and oil. Finally he shrugged, retreating to his car. "Your funeral." But Harlan Tate don't take kindly to interlopers. The engine growled to life, taillights fading into the distance. As the convoy prepared to move, Lena hoisted Noah onto a sidecar rigged for the ride, securing him with straps that spoke of countless rescues. Ethan straddled his own bike, the familiar weight grounding him, the engine's vibration a pulse syncing with his resolve. They rolled out in formation, a thunderous procession cutting through the waking town. Past the diner where Noah's mom poured coffee, her face paling as she spotted the group. Past the precinct where curtains twitched. Whispers would spread, a ripple of change in a place long stagnant. But as they hit the open road, wind whipping through their ranks, Ethan glimpsed a truck in the rear view, Harlan's beat-up Ford, tailing at a distance, its grille like bared teeth. The chase was on, not of speed, but of wills, testing the bonds of this reborn brotherhood. Redemption wasn't a straight highway. It twisted through doubts and dangers, each mile a step toward honoring the fragile trust in a boy's eyes. The horizon beckoned, vast and unforgiving. But for the first time in years, Ethan felt the road calling him home, not to the past, but to the man he was meant to be. And now, I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you. The wind howled through the convoy like a living force, whipping dust from the cracked asphalt of Route 17, where the landscape blurred into a tapestry of faded billboards and skeletal cottonwoods. Ethan rode point, his old Harley rumbling beneath him, the vibration syncing with the steady thrum of his pulse, a rhythm he'd forgotten but never truly lost. Noah rode secure in Lena's sidecar, the nurse's bike hugging the shoulder, her gloved hand occasionally reaching back to reassure the boy with a pat. Behind them stretched the iron spine of 65 riders, iron vipers in their weathered cuts, Hell's Angels patched in solidarity, engines growling in unison like a beast awakened. The morning sun climbed mercilessly, turning the road into a ribbon of molten gold, the air thick with the tang of hot rubber and wild sage. Marcus flanked Ethan's left, his massive road king cutting clean lines, eyes scanning the mirrors for threats. "That truck's still on us," he called over the roar, voice barely audible but sharp with intent. Ethan nodded, spotting the battered Ford in the distance, a shadow dogging their tail, Harlan Tate at the wheel, his face a mask of fury glimpsed through the dust. No sirens yet, no blockade, but the pursuit felt like a noose tightening, the kind woven from small-town grudges and hidden favors. Ethan gripped the handlebars tighter, the leather warm under his palms, memories surfacing unbidden. Endless runs across desert flats, brothers linking arms against the storm, their oaths sealed in the glow of taillights. He'd traded that for silence, for Jake's sake. But now the road demanded payment in full. The convoy pushed harder, weaving past a lone gas station where pumps stood like rusted sentinels, the attendant pausing mid-pump to gape at the thunder passing by. Noah's voice carried faintly from the sidecar, muffled by the wind. "Is he following us? Will he catch up?" Lena leaned in, her words lost to the gale, but her posture, straight-backed, unyielding, spoke of calm forged in emergency rooms and midnight vigils. She'd joined the Viper's runs years back, after losing her own brother to a senseless brawl, finding purpose in stitching wounds and mending spirits. Now she was the convoy's heartbeat, her clinic the sanctuary they aimed for, tucked in the hills of Willow Creek, beyond Harlan's reach. As the miles stretched, the terrain shifted, dipping into a shallow valley where the river snaked silver through gravel banks. Ethan signaled a pull-off, the riders fanning out onto a dirt overlook, engines idling down to a low purr that echoed off the canyon walls. Dust settled like a veil, revealing the group's faces. Tyler, the veteran with his prosthetic gleaming in the light, dismounting with a wince but no complaint. A cluster of angels from the border chapter, their colors bold against the earth tones, sharing nods with Viper old-timers. The air cooled here, carrying the crisp bite of water and pine, a brief respite from the chase. Ethan killed his engine, boots crunching on loose stones as he approached Noah. The boy clambered out, blanket still draped over his shoulders, eyes scanning the horizon with a mix of awe and lingering fear. We stopping? What if he comes? Ethan knelt, meeting the child's gaze, the weight of his own boyhood scars pressing like an old tattoo. We're buying time, son, figuring the next move. You stick close. These folks, their family, the kind that rides through fire for their own. Noah's nod was tentative, but he edged nearer, drawn to the circle of riders who formed a loose perimeter, their presence a wall of quiet strength. Marcus gathered the leads, Tyler, Lena, and a grizzled angel named Samuel, whose salt-streaked beard hid a laugh like rolling gravel. "Harlan's not alone in this," Marcus said, voice low, pulling a crumpled map from his vest. The paper crackled under his fingers, marked with hasty lines from past routes. Word from the wires, Rollins radioed ahead. Roadblocks possible up by the bridge. Tate's got pull. Campaign cash from the mill owners. Whispers of family services turning blind eyes to his tempers. If we push straight, we play their game. Samuel grunted, crossing his arms. The skull patch on his sleeve catching a glint of sun. "We've danced this before, brother. Border patrols, cartel shadows, hit the back roads, loop through the old quarry. Slower, but it shakes tails." Debate rippled through the group, voices overlapping in the canyon's hush, concerns for Noah's safety clashing with the urge to confront, to roar into town and demand reckoning. Ethan listened, the delimacy twisting like barbed wire in his gut. His brother's voice echoed, "Leave the fight, Ethan. Build quiet." But quiet had failed Noah, left him begging in shadows. This ride was breaking that vow, yet honoring a deeper one, the code of protection that bound these riders, chosen not by blood, but by miles and mercy. Lena spoke up, her tone cutting through. The boys showing signs of strain, exhaustion, shallow breaths. "We can't drag this out. Clinic's got a doc on call, beds ready, but if Harlan closes in..." She trailed off, eyes flicking to Noah, who sat on a rock, tracing patterns in the dirt with a stick. Ethan stepped forward, the group's eyes on him. The janitor turned reluctant leader. "We go the quarry way. No guns, no clashes, just smart riding. Get Noah safe, then we circle back, talk to the mom, lean on the allies in county, show 'em justice ain't locked in a badge." Murmurs of agreement rose, fists bumping in silent pacts, the air charging with resolve. Tyler clapped Ethan's back, his prosthetic hand solid. "Like old times, but better for the kid." They mounted up, the convoy reforming with practiced precision, engines igniting in a staggered symphony that vibrated through the earth. As they peeled back onto the blacktop, veering onto a rutted side path that wound through scrub and shadow, the Ford's silhouette faded in the mirrors. Harlan thwarted for now, but the pursuit lingered like smoke. The quarry road twisted narrow, cliffs rising on one side, the river's murmur, a constant companion below. Wind tugged at jackets, carrying the faint scent of damp stone and freedom. Halfway through the cut, trouble stirred. A fallen branch blocking the path, too deliberate to be chance, tire tracks fresh in the mud. Riders braked hard, dust clouds blooming. Ethan signaled halt, dismounting with Marcus, hearts pounding in the sudden quiet. "Ambush," Marcus whispered, hand near his belt, but Ethan shook his head. "Sabotage, Harlan's work or his friends." They cleared it swiftly, muscles straining, the group inching through single file, tension coiling like a spring. Emerging onto clearer ground, the clinic's lights winked in the distance, a beacon amid the hills. Noah's face, pressed to the sidecar's edge, lit with tentative hope. But as the sun dipped toward noon, casting long shadows across the path, Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from an old contact. "Tate's rallying boys at the mill. Sheriff's en route. Ride careful." The words sank in, a reminder that corruption's web stretched far. Testing loyalties forged in fire, the convoy pressed on, miles blurring into a testament of endurance, each rumble a vow against the darkness. Ethan rode with renewed fire, the road not just escape, but reclamation, a path where broken promises mended into something unbreakable. For Noah, for the brotherhood, for the man Jake had wanted him to be. Yet ahead, the hills hid more than shelter. They concealed the true test of honor, where silence would no longer suffice. The clinic in Willow Creek emerged from the haze like a fortress carved from the hills, its whitewashed walls glowing under the midday sun, surrounded by a chain-link fence that whispered of guarded hopes. Ethan eased his Harley to a stop at the gate, the engine's final cough echoing off the gravel lot, where wildflowers nodded in the breeze carrying hints of pine resin and distant rain. The convoy fanned out behind him, 65 bikes settling into rows like soldiers at rest, their riders dismounting with the quiet efficiency of those who danced with danger too many times. Noah hopped from Lena's sidecar, his small boots scuffing the dirt, eyes darting from the building to the encircling guardians, a flicker of relief softening the tension in his shoulders. The air here felt cleaner, untainted by the town's stifling grip, but Ethan knew sanctuary was fragile. Promises like this demanded vigilance. Lena led the way, her keys jingling as she unlocked the gate, the metal clanging with a finality that sealed their arrival. Inside, the clinic's lobby hummed with subdued life. Fluorescent lights casting a soft glow over worn chairs and posters, urging community strength, the faint scent of antiseptic mingling with fresh coffee from a side room. Dr. Amelia Grant, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with a Viper ally patch sewn discreetly on her scrubs, met them at the door. Her face, lined from long shifts and longer secrets, lit with recognition as she clasped Lena's hand. "Heard you were coming. Room's ready. Quiet wing, away from prying eyes." Noah hesitated at the threshold, clutching the blanket like a talisman, but Lena's gentle nudge coaxed him forward, her voice a soothing anchor. "This is home base now, kid. No one's getting through without answering to us." Ethan lingered outside with Marcus and Tyler, the three men forming a loose triangle near the bikes. The sun warming their leathers as they scanned the winding road below. The quarry path had shaken Harlan's tail, but the text's warning gnawed at Ethan, mill hands rallying, sheriff's cruiser en route. It wasn't just pursuit, it was a calculated snare, the kind that ensnared the unwary in webs of favor and fear. "We can't leave the boy exposed," Ethan said, his voice gravel over the crunch of shifting gravel underfoot. "But storming back means dragging the whole crew into the fire." Jake's words, they haunt me. Build quiet. Yet here we are, roaring loud. Marcus leaned against his bike, arms crossed, the tattoos on his forearms, a coiled serpent from their Viper days, rippling as he flexed. "Quiet got us nowhere with the system. This is about the code, brother. Protection first. Harlan's not stopping at shadows, he's got the law in his pocket." Tyler nodded, his prosthetic leg planted firm, the click of its joint a subtle reminder of battles won through grit alone. "I called in favors from the county outreach, old vet network. They're digging on Tate. Complaints buried, Mom's shifts manipulated to leave Noah vulnerable. Signs of aggression in the reports, but stamped unsubstantiated. Corruption's the real enemy here, not one man's rage." The words hung heavy, stirring the air like the low buzz of cicadas in the nearby brush. Ethan felt the pull of his past, the Iron Viper's runs where they'd exposed crooked badges, not with bullets but with unyielding truth. Witnesses rallied, stories amplified, until the light pierced the dark. But this felt personal, a mirror to his own escape from a father's fists, the bruises that faded but never fully healed. Inside, Noah settled into a small room with a window overlooking the hills. The bed's crisp sheets a stark contrast to the gymnasium's hard bleachers. Amelia checked him over gently, her stethoscope cool against his skin, noting the faint tremors and shadowed eyes. "You're brave for speaking up," she murmured, her tone laced with the quiet authority of someone who'd mended more than bodies. Noah glanced at the door where Lena stood watch. "Ethan," he promised. "Will they all stay?" Lena smiled, tucking a pillow behind him. "As long as it takes. We're the family that chooses you back." The boy's nod was small, but it carried weight, a seed of trust taking root amid the uncertainty. Word spread quickly through the clinic's back channels, a secure line to the Viper's compound, patching in Hell's Angels contacts from across the state. Samuel coordinated from his bike, phone pressed to his ear, his gravelly updates painting a picture of mounting pressure. Harlan at the mill, barking orders to a crew of roughnecks, Rollins circling the school lot like a vulture. "They're spinning it as a kidnapping," Samuel relayed, dismounting with a creak of leather, "claiming we snatched the kid. But we've got eyes. Dino waitress, Noah's mom, she's wavering. Saw the convoy roll by, knows something's shifted." Ethan's jaw tightened, the sun's heat mirroring the fire in his chest. Confrontation loomed, not on the road, but in the heart of the town, where moral lines blurred under authority's weight. As afternoon shadows lengthened, casting elongated patterns across the lot, a decision crystallized. Ethan gathered the core group in the clinic's side yard, under the shade of a sprawling oak whose leaves rustled like whispered oaths. "We ride back at dusk, not to fight, but to witness. Escort the mom out, get her statement on record with neutral ears. Rally the quiet allies, vets, nurses, folks tired of the silence. Show Harlan and his sheriff that loyalty outlasts bribes." Murmurs of assent rose, fists raised in solidarity, the group's energy coiling like a spring ready to unleash not chaos, but clarity. Marcus clapped Ethan's shoulder, the gesture bridging years of absence. "You're leading this, old man, like you never left." But as they prepped the bikes, engines primed for the return, a distant rumble intruded. Not thunder, but the growl of incoming vehicles. Headlights flickered on the ridge, a line of trucks cresting the hill, Harlan's Ford at the lead, flanked by unmarked rides and a sheriff's SUV. Rollins's voice crackled over a bullhorn, echoing down the slope. "Stand down, riders. This ends now. Kidnapping charges for all." Tension spiked, hands itching toward ignitions, but Ethan raised a fist, holding the line. Noah peered from the window, face paling, the fragile piece fracturing like glass under pressure. The standoff stretched, dust devils swirling in the breeze, the air thick with the scent of impending storm. Ethan stepped forward, voice steady over the idling engines. "This isn't kidnapping, deputy. It's salvation. The boy's safe because we answered when no one else would. You want him? Come clean. Face the truth about Tate's shadows." Rollins hesitated, the bullhorn lowering, his eyes flicking to the clinic's fortified stance. Whispers among his men suggested cracks, perhaps a rider's ally in the ranks, or the weight of witnessed honor tipping scales. In that charged silence, Ethan's phone vibrated. A message from the mom, "I'm coming, for Noah." The tide turned subtly, redemption's path revealing itself not in clashes, but in the quiet power of standing firm. The convoy held, an unbreakable chain against corruption's tide, each heartbeat sinking to the promise that had reignited their fire. Yet the true reckoning brewed, demanding sacrifices that tested the soul's deepest scars. If this chapter stirred something in you, Hit that like button. It helps spread stories of real courage and chosen family to those who need them most. The sun hung low over Willow Creek, bleeding orange across the clinic's fence like spilled blood on canvas, casting jagged shadows that danced with the gathering wind. Ethan stood unmoving at the forefront of the riders, his silhouette etched against the chrome sea of idling motorcycles, the engine's low growl a counterpoint to the bullhorn's fading echo. Dust swirled in lazy eddies around his boots, carrying the sharp tang of overheated brakes and the earthy bite of the encroaching storm. Behind him, the 65-strong convoy held formation, vipers and angels alike, shoulders squared, faces set in lines of quiet defiance, their leathers creaking softly as they shifted weight. Noah's small face pressed against the clinic window, pale and wide-eyed, the blanket clutched in his fists like a lifeline fraying at the edges. Deputy Rollins lowered the bullhorn, his SUV's door creaking open with deliberate slowness, the sheriff's boots hitting the gravel in measured thuds that amplified in the tense hush. Flanking him, Harlan Tate's Ford idled rough, its grille scarred from years of reckless miles. The man himself visible through the windshield, jaw clenched, eyes burning with a fury that twisted his features into something feral. 3 unmarked trucks fanned out behind, their drivers rough-hewn mill workers, hands gripping steering wheels white-knuckled, the air thick with the unspoken threat of numbers over honor. Rollins adjusted his hat, sweat beading on his brow despite the cooling breeze, his gaze sweeping the riders like a man appraising a storm he couldn't quite control. "Hargrove!" he called, voice steady but laced with the strain of authority stretched thin. "This charade ends. Kidnapping's a felony. Federal eyes if I make the call. Hand over the boy, and maybe we talk leniency for your..." Enthusiasm. Ethan's hand rose slightly, a signal rippling back through the ranks, engines throttling down to whispers, the sudden drop in noise amplifying the river's distant rush and the rustle of leaves in the oak overhead. He stepped forward alone, closing the gap to Rollins without haste, the gravel crunching underfoot like brittle bones. The scent of the deputy's cologne, cheap and overpowering, clashed with the clean pine drifting from the hills, a reminder of facades crumbling under scrutiny. "Leniency?" Ethan echoed, his tone gravelly, carrying the weight of roads travelled and oaths broken. "That's rich coming from a man who buries complaints under family matters. Noah's got marks that tell a different story. Flinching shadows, nights spent hiding. You know it, Rollins. Harlan's donations don't erase that." A murmur stirred among the arrivals, Harlan's door slamming like a gunshot, the stepfather striding forward with fists balled, his flannel shirt stained with mill grease, reeking of sweat and stale rage. "You got no right, Janitor!" he bellowed, voice cracking the air, spittle flecking his beard. "Boy's mine to raise, my house, my rules. You biker trash think you can waltz in?" But his advance halted as Marcus and Tyler moved up, not aggressively, but solid as canyon walls, their presence a silent barrier. Lena emerged from the clinic door, Amelia at her side, the doctor's scrubs a stark white flag in the fading light. Her voice cutting clear. Medically, the child showing signs of prolonged strain. Rest needed. Evaluation pending. Legally, this is protection, not theft. Call your bluff, deputy, or let us handle it right. The standoff thickened, time stretching like taffy, the wind picking up to tug at jacket hems and stir dust into veils that obscured the ridge. Samuel, from the angel's flank, pulled out his phone, thumbing a quick message, his beard twitching with a suppressed grin. "County ears are listening," he muttered to no one in particular, the words carrying just far enough. Whispers spread among Rollins's men, one truck driver shifting uncomfortably, eyes flicking to the clinic where Noah now stood with Lena, the boy's chin lifting slightly, defiance blooming in his stance. Ethan felt the shift, a subtle tide turning, born not of threats but of the unyielding truth these riders embodied, the family chosen in the crucible of shared scars, loyal beyond badges or bribes. Then headlights pierced the gloom from the access road, a lone sedan crunching up the drive, its engines sputtering to a halt amid the tension. Out stepped Sarah, Noah's mother, her diner uniform rumpled, apron still tied, face drawn with exhaustion and resolve, the faint scent of fried onions clinging to her like a ghost. She clutched a worn purse, eyes locking on the clinic window where her son waited, a choked sob escaping as she pushed past the frozen line. "Noah!" she called, voice breaking, rushing toward the gate where Lena met her, arms open. The boy bolted out, blanket trailing, colliding into her embrace with a force that nearly toppled them both. Tears streaked their faces, the reunion raw and unfiltered, the air humming with the quiet power of a bond reforged. Rollins's face darkened, the bullhorn dangling limp in his hand, as Sarah turned, her voice steadying. "I saw the ride this morning, from the diner window. Knew something was wrong, but Harlan, he twists everything. The bruises, the nights I come home to silence. I was scared, but no more. This ends. I'm taking my boy, with help." Harlan lunged forward, a guttural protest rising, but Tyler's arm shot out, not striking, but firm, halting him mid-stride. "Easy," Tyler said, his prosthetic gleaming in the twilight, voice even as forged steel. "Truth's out now, no more shadows." The deputy rubbed his neck, glancing at his men, the cracks widening, one roughneck muttering about, "Enough of this mess," another nodding toward Sarah's tear-streaked determination. Ethan's phone buzzed again, a confirmation from the vet network, statements compiling, neutral witnesses en route, the web of corruption fraying under exposure. "You ride with ghosts, Rollins," Ethan said softly, the words landing like rain on parched earth. "But we're real, and we're staying till it's right." The sheriff exhaled, shoulders slumping imperceptibly, the bullhorn finally holstered. "This ain't over," he grumbled, signaling retreat, the trucks rumbling back in reverse, Harlan dragged away cursing, his Ford peeling out in a spray of gravel. As the ridge cleared, the convoy exhaled collectively, engines firing up in a victorious rumble that echoed through the valleys, not aggressive but affirming, a symphony of solidarity under the emerging stars. Sarah knelt with Noah, whispering promises of safer horizons, while Amelia guided them inside, the clinic's lights blooming warm against the dusk. Ethan leaned against his bike, Marcus at his side, the weight of the day settling like a well-earned ache. "Broke Jake's vow," he murmured, but Marcus shook his head, clapping his back, honored it deeper. Loyalty like this? It's the quiet that builds legacies. Yet, as night deepened, the river's murmur turning to a steady rush, Ethan spotted distant taillights flickering on the horizon, not retreating, but circling. Harlan's grudge, a lingering ember. The ride homeward loomed not just miles, but a final gauntlet, where redemption demanded one last stand against the darkness that birthed it all. The brotherhood tightened ranks, engines purring in anticipation, the stars above witnessing oaths renewed in the heart of chosen kin. The night sky over Willow Creek unfurled like a vast black canvas, stars pricking through the veil as the last echoes of retreating engines faded into the river's steady murmur. Ethan stood in the clinic's gravel lot, the cool dusk air brushing his face like a forgotten whisper, carrying the faint, acrid tang of exhaust mingled with the damp earth from the hills. His Harley idled nearby, a low vibration humming through the ground, syncing with the pulse of the 65 riders who formed a loose semicircle behind him. Shadows in leather, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the clinic's porch light, eyes reflecting the quiet fire of resolve. Sarah and Noah had retreated inside, The mother's arm wrapped protectively around her son, their silhouettes visible through the window like fragile icons of hope reclaimed. But the horizon still flickered with those distant taillights. Harlan's lingering threat, circling like a predator, denied its prey. Marcus sidled up, his bulk a reassuring presence, the creak of his vest breaking the hush. "They're not done, brother. Tate's pride's a lit fuse. Mill boys'll follow him anywhere, and Rollins, he's scrambling, but he'll rally." Ethan nodded, his salt and pepper beard catching the breeze, the weight of Jake's promise settling heavier now, not as a chain, but as a compass. He'd broken the vow to leave the life, yet in this ride, he'd forged something purer, loyalty that healed old fractures, turning silence into a roar for the voiceless. "We end it tonight," Ethan said, voice steady as forged iron. "No more running. We go to the source, the mill, get the truth out face to face. Sarah's ready to speak. The vet network's got recorders rolling. This town's rot ends with light, not shadows." The group stirred, murmurs rippling like wind through dry grass, Tyler adjusting his prosthetic with a soft click, Samuel holstering his phone after a final check-in. Lena emerged from the clinic door, her ponytail disheveled, but eyes sharp, nodding to Ethan. Noah's resting, Amelia's watching. Mum's got stories that could crack the sheriff wide open, Harlan's tempers, the way complaints vanished like smoke. She paused, glancing at the stars. "But be careful, this is about justice, not settling scores." The riders mounted in unison, engines igniting in a staggered symphony that built from purrs to thunder, the vibrations shaking loose pebbles across the lot. Ethan straddled his bike last, Noah's earlier plea echoing in his mind. "You promise?" A vow he'd etch into the night. They rolled out under the moon's pale gaze, the convoy a serpent of chrome winding down the hillside road, headlights slicing the darkness like beacons of intent. The air grew thicker, with the scent of pine giving way to the industrial bite of the mill district, smoke from cooling stacks, the metallic tang of machinery idling through the witching hour. Route 17 curved into the town's frayed edges, past shuttered diners and flickering street lamps, the riders' formation tight, a rolling testament to chosen bonds. Ethan led, wind tugging at his jacket, memories flashing, Jake's hospital bed, the beeping monitors, his brother's final rasp. "Build quiet, Ethan, for us." Quiet had been his cage. This thunder was his liberation, honoring the man Jake had seen in him all along. The mill loomed ahead, a hulking silhouette of rusted silos and conveyor arms frozen in moonlight, floodlights casting harsh pools on the chained gates. Harlan's Ford sat crooked in the forecourt, flanked by a half-dozen trucks, their engines off but headlights blazing like accusatory eyes. Rollins's cruiser idled nearby, the deputy leaning against it, arms crossed, his uniform shadowed by the structure's bulk. A cluster of mill hands milled about, rough figures in grease-stained caps, murmuring unease as the convoy's roar announced their arrival. Engines cut in a wave, the silence that followed heavier than any storm, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl and the faint creak of cooling metal. Ethan dismounted first, boots hitting gravel with purposeful crunch. Marcus and Tyler at his flanks, the core group advancing while the rest held the perimeter. Harlan burst from the shadows, face twisted in the floodlight's glare, his flannel sleeves rolled up to reveal knuckles, scarred from unseen rages. "You got guts, Janitor, or stupidity," he snarled, voice echoing off the silos, spittle catching the light. "Barging in like you own the night, boys coming back and your circus clears out." Rollins straightened, hand hovering near his radio, but his eyes betrayed the fracture. Earlier standoffs had sown doubt, whispers from his own ranks about buried truths surfacing. Sarah's sedan pulled up then, modest and unassuming, its tires whispering to a halt at the gate. She stepped out, Noah absent, but her resolve steel-clad, clutching a folder of faded papers, old notes, witness scribbles from diner patrons, timelines of nights gone wrong. Lena and Amelia flanked her, the nurse's presence a bridge to the clinic's sanctuary. "No more lies, Harlan," Sarah said, her voice carrying clear over the tension, the air thick with the mill's oily residue. "The marks on my son, the doors locked from outside, the way you made me doubt my own eyes. I worked those shifts thinking it built a home, but it was a cage. Not anymore." The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading, mill hands shifting, one muttering, "Heard that before," another nodding toward the folder. Rollins cleared his throat, the sound amplified in the hush, his gaze flicking to the rider's unyielding line. "This is private property. Statements can wait for official channels." But Ethan stepped closer, the group a wall of quiet power. No weapons drawn, but honor bared. "Channels you control? We've got recordings, Sarah's account, Noah's words from the gym, allies from county stepping up. The family matters excuse crumbles under light deputy. Harlan's donations bought silence, but not anymore. We're here for the boy, for the truth that heals." Harlan lunged, a guttural curse escaping, but Marcus's arm barred him, the sergeant's bulk unmoving. "Stand down," Marcus growled, not with threat but finality, the code of restraint holding firm. The stepfather faltered, eyes wild, as Sarah's voice rose again, detailing the shadows, the flinches at raised voices, the hidden pains that no badge had touched. Murmurs swelled among the hands, one stepping forward, cap in hand. "Seen enough. Tate's rages spill over. Lost a shift to his fits once. Ain't right." Cracks widened, Rollins's radio crackling with an incoming call, county dispatch, neutral voices demanding logs, the web unraveling in real time. The deputy exhaled, shoulders sagging under the weight of exposure, holstering his hand as Harlan slumped against his truck, defeated fury giving way to hollow defeat. "Get him out," Rollins muttered, waving his men back, the trucks firing up in retreat, tail lights bleeding red into the night. Sarah turned to Ethan, tears tracing her cheeks, gratitude in her nod. "You gave us a way out. For Noah." The riders exhaled as one, engines rumbling to life, not in triumph but affirmation, the convoy peeling away under the stars, leaving the mill's shadows diminished. Back at the clinic, dawn's first blush painted the hills gold as Ethan parked, the group dispersing with handshakes and quiet words. Bonds reforged in the night's forge. Noah waited at the door, blanket discarded, a small smile breaking through. "It's over?" Ethan knelt, ruffling his hair. "For now, but promises stick. You build from here, with family that fights fair." Jake's spirit felt closer, not broken but whole, the quiet Ethan had built now echoing with purpose. As the sun rose, the road stretched open, redemption's miles endless but shared. The brotherhood rode on, guardians of oaths that outlasted storms, their legacy woven in the lives they lifted from darkness. Thank you for riding this journey with us. Stories like Ethan's remind us of the power in chosen loyalty. If it touched you, subscribe for more tales of quiet courage and hit the bell to never miss a chapter. Your support keeps these northern confessions rolling to hearts that need them.